But niggas can't change it, right? This man got a wife, he got kids, everything else.
Yeah, I understand that.
You going to the street still?
Listen, he got the wife and kids from being the person he was in the street. Don't change me. I mean, glow a nigga up, and that's cool. You can help me, think a little better, but it's certain things I gotta react to. Everybody knows.
One of Atlanta's most legendary rappers just tried to go back to where it all started and got turned away at the door. Not by the police, not by a rival crew, but by his own people. The same streets that built him, that gave him his name, his credibility, his whole identity. Those streets looked him dead in the face and said, nah, you can't come back here. Gucci Mane, a man who once ruled Atlanta's trap scene with an iron fist, a man who survived shootings, prison bids, and beef that would have buried most people, is now banned from East Atlanta, Zone 6. His own hood, the very ground he put on the map. And behind his public persona as a reformed rap mogul and loving husband, Gucci Mane was caught up in a situation that ultimately led to him being cast out by the culture that created him. The truth behind what really went down is darker and more layered than the blogs are letting on. And today, we are pulling back every single curtain. What's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is the place where we don't just give you the headlines, we give you the whole story, the context, the street politics, and the real talk that mainstream media won't touch. Make sure you are subscribed because today we are going deep into one of the most controversial situations in Atlanta rap history. Let's get into it. Now, before we ride out on this story, let me keep it 100 with y'all. There has been a lot of noise online. People saying Gucci Mane fell off. People saying he has lost his mind. People saying the streets already knew this day was coming. But we are about to separate the facts from the fiction, the real from the fake, because this situation deserves more than a 2-minute Twitter take. Let's establish something first. East Atlanta, Zone 6. If you don't know what that means in the context of Atlanta rap, let me paint the picture for you. Zone 6 is not just a zip code, it is a legacy. It is the birthplace of some of the most influential trap music this generation has ever heard. And Gucci Mane, he didn't just come from Zone 6. He helped define what it meant to be from there. The drill, the aesthetic, the hustle, the code, all of it was wrapped up in that East Atlanta identity that Gucci Mane wore like armor for years. So when we are talking about Gucci Mane being banned from that same community, understand the magnitude of what that actually means. This is not just a rapper being unpopular. This is a man being spiritually and physically excommunicated from the place that made him who he is. That does not happen lightly in the streets. That is a verdict. Now hold up before y'all start thinking this is just internet drama and clout chasing. What happened between Gucci Mane and his community is rooted in a very real, very documented chain of events that connects back to one of the most talked about legal cases in recent rap history. And here is where it gets real spicy, because it involves Pooh Shiesty. So check it. Let's go back to where this whole thing started cracking at the foundation. Pooh Shiesty, for those who haven't been keeping up, is a Memphis rapper who blew up hard in the early 2020s, signed to Gucci Mane's 1017 Records label. Pooh Shiesty was one of the most promising young artists on the roster.
After the altercation about getting up out the contract, Pooh made Gucci sign the contract.
The man had energy, he had bars, he had the street credibility to back it all up, and Gucci Mane was right there putting him on. On the surface, it looked like a classic mentor and protege situation, an OG investing in the next generation coming out of the trap. But then everything changed. In 2021, federal charges came down on Pooh Shiesty and several members of his crew, the Chopper Gang, stemming from a carjacking and robbery case out of Florida. Now, federal charges are a completely different animal than state charges, y'all. We are not talking about a night in county. We are talking about the kind of charges that come with mandatory minimum sentences, co-defendant agreements, and prosecutors who will squeeze every single person in the circle until somebody talks. And this is where Gucci Mane's name starts getting pulled into conversations that have absolutely nothing to do with music. According to multiple people speaking on this situation, Gucci Mane cooperated with federal authorities in ways that directly impacted Pooh Shiesty's case and the cases of people connected to his crew. Now, in legal terms, that cooperation can take many forms. It could be testimony, it could be providing information in exchange for consideration, it could be documented statements, but in street terms, in the culture that Gucci Mane built his entire career on, there is only one word for it: snitching. Let that sink in for a minute. because the weight of that word in this context is enormous. This is a man who built his brand on being untouchable, on being a product of the real Atlanta streets where the code meant everything. Gucci Mane's whole identity was rooted in the idea that he lived by certain rules that people from Zone 6 and communities like it understand on a bone-deep level. And the allegation, backed by documented legal proceedings and people close to the situation, is that he broke the most fundamental of those rules when it came to Pooh Shiesty and his whole crew. Now let me break it down for y'all who might not fully understand the street dynamics at play here. In communities where law enforcement has historically been an adversarial force rather than a protective one, cooperation with federal prosecutors is not just frowned upon. It is seen as a betrayal of the community itself. And when you are someone of Gucci Mane's stature, when you have profited off of that community's culture, when you have built a career telling stories about that lifestyle, when people have gone to bat for you, when the streets have shown you love for decades, the expectation of loyalty runs even deeper. So when word spread that Gucci Mane had put himself on the other side of the equation when it came to Pooh Shiesty and the Choppa gang, people from his own label, from the ecosystem he helped create, the streets responded the only way they knew how. They cut him off. But here's where it gets real interesting, fam. Because the ban from Zone 6 did not happen in silence. It happened publicly. It happened with receipts. When Gucci Mane was spotted trying to make his way back through the East Atlanta area, going back to the stomping grounds, whether that was for an event, for personal reasons, whatever the case, he was not welcome. And in the age of social media, that kind of rejection does not stay quiet. Videos circulated, people talked. Word spread fast that the man who used to be a king in those streets could not even move through them freely anymore. Think about what that image means symbolically. Gucci Mane has the house in the suburbs. He has got the mainstream crossover success. He is married. He has got a kid. He has done the whole redemption arc publicly. The weight loss, the business ventures, the legacy conversations. By every external measure, he is supposed to be winning. But none of that matters when your own people will not let you come home. And that contrast between the polished public image and the reality on the ground in Zone 6 is exactly what has been making this story hit so hard with people paying attention. The real kicker, though, is how this ban gets enforced, because it is not like there is a formal meeting where somebody votes you out. In the streets, exile is communicated differently. It is in the energy when you pull up and nobody is happy to see you. It is in the silence from people who used to ride for you. It is in the fact that nobody is vouching for your presence anymore. And for someone from the culture, someone who grew up knowing exactly what those signals mean, being banned from Zone 6 is as loud as any statement could ever be. The streets been talking, y'all, and what they are saying is that Gucci Mane is no longer protected in the place where he was once untouchable. Now, this is where we got to address something important, because I know some of y'all watching this might be coming from outside the culture and might be wondering, why does this matter so much? He is rich. He is famous. He does not even need to go back to the hood, right? And that right there is the misconception we need to break down. For artists who come from communities like Zone 6, the connection to where you are from is not just sentimental, it is foundational to your identity and your legitimacy in this culture. Hip-hop has always been a music rooted in authenticity. When you are a trap rapper specifically, when your whole brand is built on the reality of where you came from and what you lived through, that community connection is not optional. It is not background scenery, it is the story. Gucci Mane did not just make music about the trap, he was the trap. And that authenticity, that realness, was what gave his music its power and its longevity. People did not just listen to Gucci Mane because the beats knocked. They listened because they believed him, because the struggle he was rapping about felt like something he actually lived. So when the very community that authenticated that story turns around and revokes his pass, they are not just taking away a physical place he can visit. They are calling into question the entire narrative. And in hip-hop, your narrative is everything. Now let's talk about something that adds yet another layer to all of this. People who have been paying attention to Gucci Mane over the last few years have noticed that something seems off. His behavior in interviews, his social media presence, certain decisions that have raised eyebrows, and there has been widespread speculation that Gucci Mane is currently on some form of psychiatric medication. Now, I want to be clear. I am not a doctor, and I am not here to diagnose anybody, but this is a conversation that people in the community have been having openly, and it connects directly to the broader picture of who Gucci Mane is right now versus who he used to be. Because on one hand, you have people who say, look, the medication explains the changes in his behavior. It explains why he seems disconnected from the streets, why his judgment seems different, why the man who once moved with precision and purpose now seems to be operating on a completely different frequency. But here is the other side of that coin, and this is the real talk that the streets have been serving up loud and clear. Gucci Mane, in his prime, was not a passive figure. This was a man who robbed people. This was a man who was involved in serious street activity that affected real people in his community. And the code, the same code that is now being used to exile him. The streets lived by that code when Gucci Mane was on the other side of it too. People who got robbed by Gucci Mane or who were affected by his activity back in those days, they did not call the feds. They did not cooperate with law enforcement. They handled things the way the streets handle things, or they took their losses and kept moving. Real talk. There is a deep irony in that, and people are not shy about pointing it out. Gucci Mane could do what he did back then, could move how he moved through those communities, and the code protected him. The same people who are now locked out of legal protections, who are now dealing with federal charges, who are now watching their crew get taken down, those same people, or people just like them, extended the courtesy of silence when Gucci Mane was the one doing damage. And now that the table is turned, now that it is Gucci Mane being asked to stand by that same code of silence when federal pressure came down on him, he allegedly chose differently. Let that sink in for a minute. The streets have a long memory, fam. They remember every robbery. They remember every violation. They remember who got hurt and who did not say a word. And they also remember who started talking when the feds came knocking and who did not. The medication conversation matters here because it raises a genuine question about accountability. If Gucci Mane's mental state has been significantly altered, if he genuinely is not operating with full capacity right now, does that change how his decisions should be evaluated? Is it fair to hold someone fully accountable for choices made under medical circumstances that may have compromised their judgment? Those are valid questions, but in the court of the streets, those questions do not carry much weight. Because the damage caused by cooperation, whether it came from a place of fear, of mental compromise, of pure self-interest, or some combination of all three, that damage is real and it is already done. Pooh Shiesty and his crew are dealing with the consequences of a legal situation that Gucci Mane's alleged cooperation impacted. No explanation changes that outcome. Now let's zoom out for a second because this situation with Gucci Mane is not happening in a vacuum. We are in an era where the relationship between rap artists and federal law enforcement has become one of the defining tensions in the culture. From the RICO cases that have swept through Atlanta rap in recent years, cases that have pulled in multiple artists and their entire circles, to the ongoing debates about cooperation agreements, the pressure that the federal government puts on people connected to this music scene is unlike anything we have seen before. And when artists of Gucci Mane's stature get caught in that machinery, the decisions they make have ripple effects that go far beyond their own personal circumstances. Because these are people that younger artists look up to. These are people that communities take cues from. When an OG folds under federal pressure, it sends a message throughout the whole ecosystem. When someone who built their career on a code abandons that code when things get serious, it recalibrates everyone's understanding of where the lines actually are. There is also the business dimension to consider. Gucci Mane's 1017 Records was built on discovering and elevating street talent. Pooh Shiesty was supposed to be one of his biggest success stories, a Memphis artist with real buzz who Gucci Mane had invested in and put on a major platform. The idea that the relationship between artist and label boss ended up playing out inside a federal case, with allegations that the boss cooperated in ways that affected the artist, that is a fundamental breakdown of the trust that every artist and label relationship is supposed to be built on. For artists who might be considering signing with 1017 or working with Gucci Mane in any capacity going forward, this situation forces a very uncomfortable question about what that relationship is actually worth when the pressure comes. At the end of the day, fam, Gucci Mane's situation is not just about one man being banned from one neighborhood in Atlanta. It is about something much bigger than that. It is about the price of authenticity in a culture that demands it. It is about the tension between survival and community loyalty when the stakes get existential. It is about what happens when the codes that an entire musical genre is built on come into direct collision with the machinery of federal law enforcement. and somebody has to make a choice. Gucci Mane built his entire legacy on being undeniable, from Trap House dropping in 2005 and changing what Atlanta rap sounded like, to surviving situations that would have ended most people, to going to prison multiple times and coming back sharper every single time. This man had a narrative of resilience that felt almost mythological. And the thing about myths, when they break loud. Because it is not just that Gucci Mane is allegedly banned from Zone 6. It is that the ban represents the community's official verdict on who he is now versus who he claimed to be. It is the streets saying, "We love the version of you that lived by the code. We do not recognize this version." Now, some people watching this are going to say, well, maybe Gucci Mane made the right call for himself. Maybe cooperating was the rational choice given everything at stake. Maybe at this point in his life, with a wife, with a child, with legitimate business interests, the calculation changed. Maybe the old codes do not apply when you have actually got something real to lose. And I understand that argument. I am not here to tell anybody how they should navigate a federal situation. The decisions people make when serious consequences are on the table are complicated, and I am not walking in anybody's shoes. But here is what I will say. If you are going to build a career on a certain identity, if the foundation of your art, your brand, and your cultural authority is rooted in a specific set of values, then the people in the community you came from have every right to hold you to that identity, because you cashed in on it for decades, you profited from it, you used it to get rich and famous and powerful, and the community let you do all of that because they believed you were one of them. And while Gucci Mane is navigating his exile from Zone 6, Pooh Shiesty and the people connected to his case are dealing with a reality that federal cooperation allegedly made harder. Whatever happens in those legal proceedings, those are real lives, real years, real consequences. And allegedly sitting somewhere in the chain of events that led to those consequences is the decision that Gucci Mane made. That weight does not disappear because someone is on medication. It does not disappear because someone has evolved or changed their lifestyle or cleaned up their image. In the culture, accountability does not have an expiration date. In the streets, whether you agree with their code or not, they take that seriously. So where does Gucci Mane go from here? The mainstream world still knows who he is. The hits still exist. The brand still has commercial value. The exile from Zone 6 does not erase his catalog. But for anyone who understands what that East Atlanta connection meant to his identity and to the authenticity that gave his music its power, the ban is something that cannot be undone easily. Maybe not at all. Because the streets do not forgive quickly, and they do not forget. And they have a way of making sure that everyone who needs to know knows. Gucci Mane came from East Atlanta Zone 6 with nothing but hunger and ambition and a work ethic that produced more music than most artists dream of. He turned that raw material into a legacy that shaped a generation. And now, the place where that story began has officially told him the door is closed. Whether he can ever reopen it, only time will tell. But right now, one of Atlanta's most iconic figures is standing on the outside of the community that made him looking in, and the community is not looking back. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Does the Zone 6 ban change how you look at Gucci Mane's legacy? And check out the video on screen right now for more stories like this one. We stay giving y'all the real. Peace.